Just one ship? Part 1, The Incursion. The Zephyrian war room buzzed with activity as Admiral Vextar studied the holographic display floating above the command table. Red dots marked human settlements scattered across 12 star systems. The dots looked small and pathetic compared to the vast blue network of Zephyrian space that surrounded them. "These mammals are getting bold," said Commander Crix, her scales shifting from green to orange with annoyance. "They refuse to acknowledge our territorial claims." Vextar's four eyes focused on one particular red dot. The Kepler 442 system contained some of the richest mineral deposits in this sector of space. The humans had planted a colony there just 6 months ago, completely ignoring the hegemony's ancient rights to the system. "What do we know about their military capabilities?" Vextar asked. The intelligence officer, a thin Zephyrian named Texol, activated another display. "Limited, Admiral. They use primitive fusion drives for propulsion. Their largest ships measure only 2 kilometers in length. Our intelligence suggests they possess basic plasma weapons and kinetic shields." Vextar's tail swished with amusement. The smallest Zephyrian destroyer was 3 kilometers long. Their battle cruisers stretched nearly 8 kilometers from bow to stern. These humans were clearly outmatched. "How many ships do they have in their entire fleet?" Vextar continued. "Approximately 400 vessels spread across all their colonies, sir. Most are cargo ships and civilian transports. We estimate no more than 50 true warships." Commander Crix laughed, a sound like grinding metal. 50 ships? The hegemony maintains over 10,000 vessels of war. These creatures are barely worth our attention." Vextar studied the tactical display more carefully. The human presence in Kepler 442 consisted of 1 colony ship, 3 cargo vessels, and a small orbital station. No military escort was visible. "Send them a standard ultimatum," Vextar decided. "They have 48 hours to evacuate the system. If they refuse, we will remove them by force." The communications officer sent the message through quantum channels. The reply came back within 6 hours. It was brief and written in surprisingly good Zephyrian. "We respectfully decline your request to abandon our lawful colony. The Kepler 442 system was unclaimed when we arrived. We are prepared to discuss territorial boundaries through diplomatic channels." Vextar's scales darkened with anger. These mammals dared to suggest diplomacy, as if they were equals to the mighty hegemony. "Prepare the 7th Fleet for deployment," he ordered. 12 ships should be more than sufficient to clear out this infestation. Within 24 hours, the Zephyrian fleet assembled at the edge of hegemony space. Vextar commanded from the bridge of the battleship Glorious Talon, a massive vessel bristling with plasma cannons and gravity pulse weapons. 11 other ships formed an intimidating formation behind the flagship. The journey to Kepler 442 took 3 days using standard hyperspace jumps. When they emerged at the system's edge, their sensors immediately detected the human presence near the 4th planet. "Sir," reported the sensor operator, "we're detecting an additional vessel. It appears to be a human warship." Vextar leaned forward in his command chair. "Show me." The main screen displayed a human ship unlike any in their intelligence files. It was sleek and angular, about 2.5 kilometers long. Strange geometric patterns covered its hull and it showed no obvious weapon ports. "Just one ship?" Commander Crix asked in disbelief. "They sent a single vessel to face our entire fleet?" The communications officer interrupted their conversation. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. They're requesting to speak with our commanding officer." "Put them through," Vextar commanded. The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of the human ship. A female human in a blue uniform sat in the captain's chair. Her hair was dark and her eyes held an unsettling calmness. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Indomitable," she said in perfect Zephyrian. "I understand you've come to remove our colony from this system." Vextar was impressed despite himself. This human spoke their language without any accent or grammatical errors. Still, she commanded only 1 ship against his 12. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian hegemony," he replied. "Your presence here violates our territorial claims. You will evacuate immediately or we will force you to leave." Captain Chen nodded politely. "I appreciate your position, Admiral. However, our colony has legal rights to this system under galactic settlement law. We cannot simply abandon our citizens." "Galactic settlement law?" Vextar's voice rose with indignation. "The hegemony recognizes no authority higher than our own. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation procedures. Admiral, I must inform you that any attack on our colony or our ship will be considered an act of war against the United Earth Alliance. Captain Chen replied calmly. Are you certain this is the path you wish to take? Vextar's patience finally snapped. This arrogant mammal dared to threaten the hegemony? You command 1 ship against 12. Do you seriously believe you can resist us? Captain Chen's expression didn't change. Admiral, I strongly encourage you to reconsider your course of action. My ship is authorized to defend this colony by any means necessary. Your 1 ship against our fleet? Commander Crix interrupted with a laugh. Human, you are either very brave or very stupid. Neither, Captain Chen replied quietly. I'm just very well prepared. This is your final warning, Admiral. Withdraw your forces, and we can resolve this through proper diplomatic channels. Vextar cut the transmission with an angry gesture. Arrogant mammals. They think 1 ship can threaten an entire Zephyrian fleet. He turned to his tactical officer. All ships, battle formation? Target the human vessel. When they see our firepower, they'll surrender quickly enough. The Zephyrian fleet spread into attack formation, their weapon systems powering up with ominous energy readings. Plasma cannons began charging and gravity pulse generators hummed to life. The human ship Indomitable remained motionless, showing no signs of retreat or surrender. Its strange hull patterns seemed to shift and change as the ship's systems activated. Sir, the sensor operator reported, the human vessel is powering up unknown systems. Energy readings are unusual. Fire a warning shot across their bow, Vextar ordered. Let them see what real weapons can do. The glorious Talon fired a single plasma bolt that streaked across space toward the human ship. The bolt should have passed harmlessly in front of the Indomitable's nose as a demonstration of Zephyrian firepower. Instead, something impossible happened. The plasma bolt curved in mid-flight, as if space itself was bending around the human vessel. The energy discharge dissipated harmlessly against what looked like empty space. What was that? Vextar demanded. Before anyone could answer, Captain Chen's voice came through their communications again, uninvited. Admiral Vextar, you have now fired on a United Earth vessel. This constitutes an act of war. I am authorized to respond with appropriate force. The bridge fell silent. Every Zephyrian officer stared at the main screen, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Impossible, whispered Commander Crix. No ship can deflect plasma fire like that. Captain Chen continued speaking, her voice still perfectly calm. For the record, Admiral, my government sent exactly the number of ships necessary to handle this situation. Sometimes 1 ship is enough. Vextar felt a chill run through his body as he realized that perhaps they had severely underestimated these humans. The war was about to begin, and already nothing was going according to plan. Just 1 ship, Part 2. First Contact Protocol Captain. Sarah Chen stood calmly on the bridge of the Indomitable as warning lights flashed red around her. The Zephyrian fleet had spread into attack formation. 12 massive ships bristling with weapons pointed directly at her vessel. Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander Williams from the tactical station, all enemy vessels have powered weapons. They're preparing for a full assault. Chen nodded without taking her eyes off the main screen. The lead Zephyrian ship was nearly 4 times larger than the Indomitable, and the others weren't much smaller. Any reasonable military commander would have already ordered a retreat. Communications. Open a channel to the Zephyrian flagship, Chen ordered. Channel open. Captain. Admiral Vextar's angry face appeared on screen. His scales had shifted to a deep red color that Chen's briefings had taught her indicated extreme aggression in Zephyrian psychology. Human, you have exactly 30 seconds to power down your weapons and surrender. Vextar snarled. Refuse, and we will destroy your ship and proceed to remove your illegal colony. Chen clasped her hands behind her back, maintaining perfect military posture. Admiral, I'm going to make this very simple for you. Earth's diplomatic protocols require me to offer you 3 options before engaging in combat. The Zephyrian admiral laughed harshly. You offer me options? You command 1 ship. Option 1, Chen continued as if he hadn't spoken. Withdraw your fleet immediately and we'll pretend this misunderstanding never happened. No harm, no foul. Ridiculous, Commander Crix shouted from somewhere off screen. Option 2, Chen said patiently. Withdraw your fleet and agree to formal negotiations regarding territorial boundaries. We're actually quite reasonable once you get to know us. Vextar's 4 eyes narrowed dangerously. And option 3? Chen's expression never changed, but something cold flickered in her eyes. Option 3 is you maintain your current course of action, and I demonstrate why Earth's military decided one ship was sufficient for this operation. The bridge of the Indomitable was silent, except for the quiet hum of machinery. Chen's crew watched their captain with expressions of complete confidence. They had trained for this exact scenario. 30 seconds, Vextar repeated. Your time is up, human, Chen sighed softly. Very well, Admiral. For the record, Earth's government prefers peaceful solutions to territorial disputes. You are choosing the violent option. She turned to her tactical officer. Commander Williams, implement First Contact Protocol 7. Aye, Captain. Protocol 7 authorized. The communications link with the Zephyrian fleet remained open as Chen addressed her crew. All stations battle ready. Defensive systems to maximum. Weapons free when enemy opens fire. On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Vextar watched the human ship with growing confusion. The Indomitable wasn't running or surrendering. If anything, it seemed to be preparing for battle. Sir, his sensor operator reported, the human vessel is doing something. Energy patterns are shifting across their hull. Show me. The main display zoomed in on the human ship. The strange geometric patterns on its hull were definitely moving now, rearranging themselves into new configurations. The ship itself began to look different, more angular, and somehow more dangerous. All ships, Vextar commanded, open fire. Destroy that vessel. 12 Zephyrian warships unleashed their full firepower simultaneously. Hundreds of plasma bolts streaked across space toward the lone human ship. Gravity pulse weapons fired invisible waves of force that should have crushed any vessel's hull. The combined firepower was enough to sterilize a small moon. The weapons struck the Indomitable and simply vanished, not deflected or absorbed. They vanished as if they had never existed. The space around the human ship rippled like water, and every single attack disappeared without a trace. Impossible, Vextar shouted. No shield technology can do that. On the Indomitable, Chen watched the enemy fire disappear against their gravimetric barriers with satisfaction. The new shielding had performed exactly as designed. Their turn, she said quietly. Commander Williams, return fire. Target their weapon systems only. Let's be civilized about this. Aye, Captain. Kinetic bombardment authorized. The Indomitable had no visible weapons, but that didn't matter. Concealed along its hull, magnetic accelerators began charging. In less than 2 seconds, they fired. What emerged from the human ship were simple tungsten rods, each one weighing 50 kilograms and traveling at 15% of light speed. They were completely invisible until they struck their targets. The first rod hit the Glorious Talon's forward plasma cannon array. The weapon system simply ceased to exist, replaced by a perfectly circular hole that went completely through the ship's hull. Emergency barriers slammed shut to prevent atmosphere loss. The second and third rods struck 2 other Zephyrian vessels simultaneously. More weapon systems vanished in flashes of superheated metal. Evasive maneuvers. Vextar screamed, but his ships were too large and slow to avoid weapons traveling at relativistic speeds. In 47 seconds, the Indomitable systematically disabled the primary weapons on all 12 Zephyrian vessels. Not destroyed, disabled. Each shot was precisely calculated to eliminate specific systems without causing casualties. The Zephyrian fleet found itself completely helpless, their main weapons gone and their shields useless against the human ship's impossible projectiles. Chen opened the communications channel again. Admiral Vextar, I have disabled your offensive capabilities to prevent further loss of life. Your ships and crews are unharmed. Vextar stared at his tactical displays in shock. His entire fleet had been rendered combat ineffective in less than a minute by a single human vessel. What are you? He whispered. I'm a starship captain, Admiral, Chen replied simply. Just like you, except my people have been fighting wars for a very long time. We've gotten quite good at it. Commander Crix appeared on screen beside Vexistar, her scales now a pale yellow that indicated fear. Your weapons? They're impossible. Nothing can travel that fast. Actually, they can travel much faster, Chen said conversationally. These were low-velocity shots designed to minimize collateral damage. Admiral, I'm going to give you one more chance to choose peaceful withdrawal. Vextar's pride warred with the evidence of his sensors. His flagship's main cannon was simply gone, along with half the forward weapon systems. The hole through his ship was so clean that his engineers were staring at it in disbelief. How? He asked finally. Chen smiled for the first time since the conversation began. Admiral, humans have been killing each other with increasingly sophisticated weapons for over 5,000 years. We've had a lot of practice. She leaned forward in her captain's chair. The question now is whether you're wise enough to recognize when you're outmatched. I can disable the rest of your weapons just as easily, or you can gather what's left of your dignity and withdraw. The bridge of the glorious Talon was completely silent. Every Zephyrian officer stared at the human captain who had just demonstrated the complete futility of their resistance. You said this was First Contact Protocol 7, Vextar said slowly. What are Protocols 1 through 6? Chen's smile widened slightly. Progressively more diplomatic solutions, Admiral. You chose to skip right to the end of the list. Vextar realized with growing horror that if this was their least diplomatic option, he didn't want to know what their military was truly capable of. The war had lasted 47 seconds, and the Zephyrian hegemony had already lost. Just one ship. Part 3. The Doctrine of Disproportionate Response. Admiral Vextar sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the tactical display with growing dread. His proud fleet hung dead in space, their primary weapon systems destroyed by a single human ship in less than a minute. Emergency repair crews worked frantically to restore basic functions, but their main guns were simply gone. Status report, he demanded, his voice hoarse with shock. Commander Crix consulted her damage assessment tablet, her scales flickering between yellow and pale green. All ships report major weapon systems destroyed. The Crimson Blade lost their entire forward section, but their crew compartments are intact. No casualties reported across the fleet. That was perhaps the most disturbing part. The humans had disabled 12 warships without killing a single Zephyrian. Such precision was almost impossible to achieve in space combat. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. Hegemony High Command is requesting an immediate status update. Vextar closed his 4 eyes briefly. How could he possibly explain this disaster? Tell them. Tell them we need reinforcements. Significant reinforcements. On the Indomitable, Captain Chen reviewed the tactical situation with her senior officers. The disabled Zephyrian fleet posed no immediate threat, but her long-range sensors were detecting movement throughout hegemony space. Captain, reported Commander Williams, we're picking up hyperspace signatures. Looks like they're calling for backup. Chen nodded calmly. How many ships? Initial estimate suggests at least 40 vessels converging on this system. ETA approximately 18 hours. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, the ship's science officer, looked up from his station with concern. Captain, 40 ships is a significant force. Even with our advantages, those odds might be challenging. Chen turned to her tactical display and smiled. Commander Hayes, what do you know about Earth's military doctrine regarding asymmetric warfare? Fairly standard principles, ma'am. Use superior technology and tactics to overcome numerical disadvantages. Close but not quite right, Chen replied. Earth's doctrine is much simpler. If the enemy wants to escalate, we escalate faster and more efficiently than they can possibly match. She walked to the center of the bridge and activated the ship's intercom. All stations, this is the captain. We are about to implement Protocol 7 Alpha. All departments prepare for extended autonomous operations. Commander Williams raised an eyebrow. Captain, Protocol 7 Alpha? Are you certain? Absolutely certain, Commander. Please begin deployment of our mining drones. Throughout the ship, automated systems began activating. Deep in the Indomitable's cargo bays, thousands of small robotic units powered up. Each drone was roughly the size of a shuttle and equipped with advanced fabrication systems. The drones launched in coordinated swarms, spreading throughout the asteroid belt of the Kepler 442 system. To the Zephyrian observers, they looked like simple mining equipment. Admiral Vextar watched the drone deployment with confusion. What are they doing? His science officer, Telwyn, studied the sensor readings carefully. The drones appear to be standard mining units, Admiral. They're attaching themselves to asteroids and beginning extraction operations. Mining? In the middle of a combat situation? It appears so, sir. Perhaps they're attempting to gather resources for repairs. Meanwhile, Captain Chen opened a communication channel to the Zephyrian flagship. Admiral Vextar, I wanted to inform you of our current activities as a courtesy. Vextar's image appeared on screen, his scales still showing stress colors. What games are you playing now, human? No games, Admiral. My mining drones are currently converting asteroids into raw materials. Standard industrial process, really. We'll be constructing some basic infrastructure while we wait for your reinforcements to arrive. Infrastructure? Chen consulted a tablet with apparent casualness. Defense platforms, mostly. My ship's computer estimates will need approximately 200 automated weapon stations to handle the 40 ships you're calling in. The blood drained from Vextar's face as the implications hit him. You're building weapons? Oh yes, Chen replied cheerfully. Each platform will be equipped with the same kinetic bombardment systems that disabled your fleet. They're quite effective, as you've experienced. She looked directly at him through the screen. Admiral, I should mention that our mining drones are self-replicating. Every hour they double in number. By the time your reinforcements arrive, we'll have several thousand of them working. Vextar felt his heart skip a beat. Self-replicating? It's really quite efficient, Chen continued conversationally. Each drone can break down an asteroid and build 2 copies of itself, plus whatever other equipment we need. By tomorrow, we'll have enough automated defenses to handle several hundred ships. On the glorious Talon, the sensor operator suddenly spoke up with alarm. Admiral, the asteroid field, it's changing. The main display showed the local asteroid belt, which had contained roughly 300 space rocks of various sizes. Now it swarmed with mechanical activity. Drones moved between asteroids like busy insects, breaking down rock and metal and assembling new structures. How many drones are there now? Vextar asked weakly. Current count is over 4,000, sir, and increasing exponentially. Commander Crick stared at the display in horror. They're not just building weapons. Look at those structures. New constructions were taking shape throughout the asteroid field. Some were clearly weapon platforms, bristling with the same kinetic accelerators that had destroyed their fleet. Others appeared to be manufacturing facilities, producing even more drones and equipment. Captain Chen, Vextar said slowly. What exactly are you building out there? Chen's expression remained pleasant and professional. A standard frontier defense network, Admiral. My orders are to protect this colony by any means necessary. Since you've escalated to fleet-level combat, I'm responding appropriately. She gestured to something off-screen. My ship's artificial intelligence has calculated optimal placement for defensive installations. When we're finished, this entire system will be a fortress that can repel invasion fleets of any reasonable size. Any reasonable size? Vextar repeated faintly. Well, up to about 1,000 ships or so, Chen said thoughtfully. Beyond that, we'd need to implement Phase 2 protocols, and honestly, that gets quite expensive. The implications were staggering. These humans had sent a single ship that could, in a matter of days, fortify an entire star system against massive invasion fleets. How is this possible? Commander Crix whispered. Chen seemed to hear her despite the distance. Commander, humans have been engaged in industrial warfare for centuries. We learned long ago that the key to victory isn't having the biggest guns, it's having the best manufacturing capacity. She paused to check another report. Our drones have now converted roughly 12% of the asteroid belt into useful materials. At current rates, we'll have exhausted all local resources within 60 hours. Exhausted the entire asteroid belt? Vextar's voice cracked. Oh yes. Don't worry though. We're very environmentally conscious. We'll leave the planets and inhabited areas completely untouched. This is purely a military construction project. As if to emphasize her point, another wave of completed defense platforms came online throughout the system. Each one immediately began scanning for targets with sensors far more advanced than anything in the Zephyrian arsenal. Admiral Vexitar realized with growing terror that he wasn't facing a ship anymore. He was facing an entire automated navy that built itself from scratch and grew stronger every hour. The humans hadn't sent reinforcements because they didn't need them. They had sent something far more dangerous, a single vessel capable of becoming 1,000 ships, and their reinforcements were still 17 hours away. Just one ship. Part 4. The Mathematics of Fear. The emergency session of the Zephyrian High Command took place in the deepest bunkers of their homeworld. Fleet Admiral Kexvar, the highest military authority in the hegemony, studied the combat reports with increasing alarm. Around the holographic conference table, the greatest strategic minds of their civilization struggled to comprehend what they were seeing. Run the tactical analysis again, Kexvar commanded. General Vuxtem activated the projection system. At 1432 ship time, Admiral Vextar's fleet engaged a single human vessel. 12 ships, total displacement of 42 million tons armed with standard hegemony weaponry. The hologram showed the brief engagement in slow motion. hundreds of plasma bolts striking the human ship and vanishing. The return fire that disabled 12 warships in 47 seconds. Impossible weapons, muttered Intelligence Director Yilsek. Our physics department insists that projectiles cannot achieve 15% light speed using any known technology. The humans achieved it, Kexvar replied grimly. Continue the analysis. Phase 2 began approximately 6 hours after the initial engagement, Vuxtem continued. The human vessel deployed what appeared to be mining drones throughout the local asteroid field. The projection shifted to show the current state of the Kepler 442 system. Where once there had been a sparse asteroid belt, now there was a complex network of installations and platforms. Current count is over 30,000 automated defense platforms, Vuxtem reported, each one equipped with the same kinetic bombardment systems that defeated our fleet. The human ship has effectively turned the entire system into a fortress. Strategic Coordinator. Wexpol leaned forward, her old scales dim with worry. How many ships would we need to overcome these defenses? The combat computer ran calculations for several minutes before displaying its results. Minimum force estimate 1,500 ships. Probable casualties 80% of attacking force. Silence filled the bunker. The entire hegemony navy consisted of roughly 10,000 vessels. To lose 1,500 ships taking one human colony would cripple their military for decades. There's something else, Intelligence Director Yilsek said quietly. We've been analyzing human communications and historical data. The conclusions are disturbing. She activated a new display showing human territorial expansion over the past century. Humans have been engaged in continuous warfare for their entire recorded history. Not just occasional conflicts, constant systematic warfare against their own species. General Vuxtem studied the data with growing unease. They fight themselves? For over 5,000 years, Yilsek confirmed. Their technological development appears to be driven entirely by military necessity. Every major innovation in human society stems from warfare applications. The display showed the progression of human weapons technology. Crude chemical explosives evolved into nuclear weapons, then plasma cannons, finally culminating in the kinetic bombardment systems that had devastated Vextar's fleet. They don't fight wars the way we do, Yilsek continued. We engage in honorable combat between military forces. Humans treat warfare as an engineering problem to be solved through superior logistics and production capacity. Fleet Admiral Kexvar felt a chill run through his body. What do you mean? Watch this tactical simulation our computers generated based on the Kepler 442 engagement. The hologram showed a hypothetical human attack on a Zephyrian world. A single human ship arrived at the edge of the system and immediately began deploying mining drones. Within days, the drones had converted the system's asteroids into weapon platforms and manufacturing facilities. Phase 2 involves targeting the planet's industrial infrastructure, Yilsek explained as the simulation continued. Not the cities or civilian populations, the factories, power plants, and resource extraction facilities. The simulated human drone systematically dismantled every piece of infrastructure that could support military resistance. They didn't destroy cities, but they made it impossible for the planet to feed itself or maintain basic technology. Phase 3 is the most disturbing, Yilsek said quietly. Complete resource denial. In the simulation, human mining platforms began converting the planet's moons into raw materials. Orbital installations stripped the atmosphere of useful gases. Even the planet's magnetic field was harvested for energy. They don't conquer worlds, Yilsek concluded. They disassemble them. Completely and efficiently, with no waste and minimal casualties. General Vuxtem stared at the simulation in horror. How long would this process take? According to our calculations, a single human vessel could reduce a Class M planet to uninhabitable rock in approximately 4 months. The bunker fell silent again as the implications sank in. The hegemony controlled over 200 worlds. If the humans decided to wage war, Fleet Admiral, came a new voice from the communications station. We're receiving a transmission from Captain Chen of the human vessel. Kexvar straightened in his chair. Put her through. Captain Chen's calm face appeared on the main screen. She sat in what appeared to be a comfortable office rather than a military bridge. Fleet Admiral Kexvar, I presume, she said politely. I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Indomitable. I understand you're considering military options regarding our current situation. Captain, Kexvar replied carefully. We are merely reviewing our strategic position. Chen nodded understandingly. Of course. I thought you might find some additional information helpful for your planning process. She activated a display that showed star charts of hegemony space. My ship's computer has been analyzing your territorial holdings and military capabilities. Very impressive, by the way. 237 inhabited worlds, 43 major shipyards, and approximately 10,000 military vessels. Kexvar felt his blood turn cold. How did she know their exact military strength? Based on our tactical projections, Chen continued conversationally, a single human vessel could systematically neutralize your entire civilization in approximately 18 months. She highlighted various systems on the star chart. We'd start with your primary shipyards, of course. Can't have you building replacement vessels. Then the major industrial worlds that supply your military. Finally, we'd work our way through your agricultural systems. The projection showed the systematic destruction of hegemony infrastructure, world by world, system by system. It wasn't a battle plan. It was a demolition schedule. The mathematics are really quite straightforward, Chen explained. Our self-replicating systems can convert raw materials into military assets faster than any biological species can possibly respond. It's not a question of superior firepower. It's simple exponential growth. She paused to sip what appeared to be coffee. Of course, we'd much prefer to resolve this through diplomatic channels. War is expensive and time-consuming. General Vuxtum found his voice. You're threatening genocide. Chen looked genuinely surprised. Oh no, General. We don't harm civilian populations. We just remove their ability to support military resistance. Most of your people would survive on pre-industrial technology levels. The casual way she described the complete destruction of their civilization was somehow more terrifying than any threat of violence. What do you want? Kexvar asked finally. Chen smiled warmly. Very simple, Fleet Admiral. Formal recognition of human territorial claims, a non-aggression pact, and establishment of proper diplomatic relations between our species. She leaned forward slightly. In exchange, we'll convert our defense platforms back into mining equipment and pretend this unfortunate misunderstanding never happened. The choice was no choice at all. Surrender or face systematic extinction. We need time to consider your proposal, Kexvar said weakly. Of course, Chen replied. Take all the time you need. I'll just continue building defenses while you decide. The transmission ended, leaving the hegemony's leadership staring at projections of their own inevitable defeat. They had encountered a species that treated war like mathematics, and the equation was already solved. Just one ship? Part 5. The New Equilibrium. 3 weeks later, the Kepler 442 system had become the most heavily fortified location in known space. Where once there had been a simple asteroid belt, now stretched a vast network of automated defense platforms, manufacturing facilities, and mining operations. The transformation was so complete that it looked like a different star system entirely. Captain Chen stood in the observation deck of the Indomitable, watching construction drones put the finishing touches on a massive orbital facility. The structure would serve as Earth's first permanent naval base in this sector of space, complete with shipyards, repair facilities, and enough firepower to discourage any future misunderstandings. Captain, reported Commander Williams from behind her, the Zephyrian delegation has arrived for the treaty signing. Chen nodded without turning away from the viewport. How do they look? Nervous, Williams replied with obvious satisfaction. Admiral Vextar barely made eye contact when they came aboard. The formal ceremony took place in the Indomitable's main conference room. Fleet Admiral Kexvar led the Zephyrian delegation, his scales showing the pale colors of submission and defeat. Admiral Vextar stood beside him, still bearing the psychological scars of their first encounter. The Kepler Accords, Chen announced, placing the treaty document on the table. Article 1 establishes a 50 light-year exclusion zone around all human colonies. Article 2 creates formal diplomatic relations between our species. Article 3, she paused to look directly at Admiral Vextar. Article 3 establishes protocols for peaceful resolution of future territorial disputes. Kexvar signed the document with hands that shook slightly. The hegemony agrees to these terms. Excellent, Chen said warmly. I'm sure this will be the beginning of a long and profitable relationship between our peoples. After the Zephyrian delegation departed, Chen walked through the corridors of her ship, reviewing status reports. The conversion of the defense platforms back to civilian purposes was proceeding ahead of schedule. Most would become mining facilities and orbital habitats to support the growing human presence in the system. "Captain," came a voice from behind her. Commander Hayes, the science officer, approached with a tablet in his hands. "We're receiving communications from other alien civilizations. Word about the treaty is spreading." Chen accepted the tablet and scrolled through the messages. Diplomatic overtures from a dozen different species, all expressing interest in establishing relations with humanity. "Interesting," she mused. "What's the general tone?" "Extremely respectful," Hayes replied. "Several governments are specifically requesting non-aggression pacts. The Vorthan Republic even offered to pay tribute for safe passage through human space." Chen laughed softly. "Tell them tribute won't be necessary, but we're happy to discuss trade agreements." She paused at a viewport to watch the ongoing construction in the system. Hundreds of automated platforms continued their work, converting asteroids into useful materials and expanding the orbital infrastructure. "Commander, have you reviewed the after-action reports from the engagement?" "Yes, ma'am. Very illuminating. The Zephyrians had no conception of exponential growth mathematics. They planned for linear escalation, more ships, bigger guns, traditional force multiplication. And we demonstrated logarithmic response scaling." Chen finished. "They brought 12 ships, so we built capacity to handle 1,200. Simple mathematics." A communication alert sounded throughout the ship. "Captain to the bridge," came the announcement. On the bridge, Lieutenant Commander Davis looked up from the communication station with excitement. "Captain, we're receiving long-range transmissions from Earth Command. Admiral Parker wants a full debrief on the Kepler operation." Chen settled into her command chair and activated the secure communication link. Admiral Parker's stern face appeared on the main screen, transmitting from Earth with several hours of light-speed delay. "Captain Chen," Parker began, "I've read your preliminary reports. One ship? Against an entire alien fleet? The situation called for measured response, Admiral," Chen replied. "Protocol 7 guidelines were perfectly adequate for the threat level." "Measured response?" Parker's eyebrows rose. "You turned an asteroid belt into a fortress in 3 weeks. Standard frontier defense deployment, sir. The enemy escalated to fleet-level engagement, so we responded with appropriate infrastructure development." Parker was silent for a moment, consulting something off-screen. "Captain, your actions have gotten the attention of half the galaxy. We're receiving diplomatic communications from alien governments we've never heard of." "Yes, sir. The Zephyrian conflict seems to have been widely observed. Most of the messages express interest in peaceful relations." "I imagine they do," Parker said dryly. "When word gets out that one human ship can fortify an entire system in a matter of weeks, suddenly everyone wants to be friends." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Earth's diplomatic position has certainly improved, Admiral. That's putting it mildly. The President wants to know if we can replicate this success in other sectors." "Absolutely, sir. The indomitable sister ships are nearing completion. Within 2 years, we could have permanent installations in every major trade route." Parker nodded slowly. "Very well, Captain. Continue your mission." "And Chen?" "Yes, Admiral. Try not to start any more wars. The diplomatic corps is having trouble keeping up with all the peace treaties they're being asked to negotiate." After the communication ended, Chen returned to her quarters to complete her official report. She sat at her desk, looking out at the bustling activity throughout the system, and began to type. After Action Report, Kepler 442 Incident, Executive Summary. First contact with Zephyrian hegemony proceeded within acceptable parameters. Initial diplomatic overtures were rejected in favor of military solution. Applied Standard Protocol 7 response. Enemy fleet neutralized with minimal casualties. Treaty negotiations concluded successfully. She paused, considering how to phrase the next section. Recommendations. Future first contact scenarios should include enhanced cultural sensitivity training for alien species. Many civilizations appear to have limited understanding of exponential growth mathematics and may require educational demonstrations before accepting diplomatic solutions. Chen filed the report and returned to the observation deck. Throughout the system, her automated platforms continued their work, building the infrastructure that would support human expansion into this sector of space. The Zephyrian ships had long since departed, carrying news of humanity's capabilities to every corner of their territory. Soon that news would spread to other civilizations, other species that might consider challenging human expansion. They would learn, as the Zephyrians had learned, that humans approached warfare as an engineering problem. And like any engineering problem, it could be solved with sufficient application of resources and mathematics. In the vast networks of alien communication systems, a new entry appeared in xenological databases across dozens of civilizations. Species human origin Sol system. Technology level advanced. Military capability extreme. Diplomatic status approach with caution. Recommend immediate diplomatic contact. Under no circumstances attempt military engagement. Note a single human vessel capable of system-level fortification. Escalation patterns suggest exponential response doctrine. Peaceful coexistence strongly advised. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes one ship really is enough. Captain Chen smiled as she watched. Earth's newest naval base takes shape among the stars. The universe was a large place, but humanity was expanding to fill it, one system at a time.